Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a beautiful and instructive gameplay by the latest version of Stockfish, the powerful Stockfish 16. Today we see the fish battling it out against another top engine Superultra in the beautiful Giuoco piano of the Italian opening, and this game I think is really beautiful because probably many of you when you start to play chess, when you maybe a beginner are trying to play the Italian opening, the Ruy Lopez, maybe the Queen's Gambit decline, maybe the Berlin defense, you're trying to play this classical openings in which I think you can apply the most important strategic concepts, middle game ideas. Really, also you're reaching many times the end game stage. So I would also suggest to you, if you're a beginner, to start with the normal openings, as I call them the normal openings because they're not immediately giving a huge advantage for one side. So in my opinion, learning the Italian opening, the Spanish opening, really the Queen's Gambit, the Klein standard stuff, I think is perfectly fine because then you'll learn really the most important strategic elements that can happen to you, because out of the Italian opening, out of the Ruy Lopez, really many strategic patterns can happen also in the middle game stage. So in my opinion, it's of course one of the best openings that you can play. But today we'll see a little bit a different concept here by Stockfish 16 with the black pieces in the Giuoco piano. I think you see really different approach because this move that you see now in the continuation of the video is not so often played. It's really different idea where Stockfish is not going into standard lines of the Giuoco piano, plays here really also sort of a theoretical novelty. So pay good attention. I think with this video you can have a great preparation in the Italian opening. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The Superultra engine opened with move e4. Stockfish response was e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5. We have the Italian game. The Giuoco piano is on the board. We have kingside castling here by Superultra, knight to f6, d3, liberating of course the dark square diagonal. Now we have d6. We have a certain symmetry here in the center of the board, and now Superultra goes with this aggressive method with the move c3, prepares of course in some lines to hit the center with the move d4, but also maybe to hit the flanks with the move b4. So now in my opinion, they're two good moves. You can play a6 or you can play a5 in order to stop a little bit the progress of white here on the queen side. I'm more of a fan of this approach with the move a5 because you're not allowing b4 to happen, so you have a great grip around the square b4. If you play a6, nothing wrong with that, nothing. You'll not make a mistake or something. It's just a different sideline. But what I never like that white gets an extra tempo with b4, then you have to retreat. Then he probably will continue in some lines with the move a4. Then he still has spaces here on this side of the board. At least for a while, I think with the move a5, we can stop white's progress on this side of the board. So here, Superultra goes with the move bishop to g5. And many things have been played so far in chess history. Kingside castling, retreating with the bishop to a7. H6, for instance, is also a very popular line, but Stockfish played now a different approach, really cool approach, played now a beautiful queen to e7, which is a certain theoretical novelty. I'm not seeing games in the database immediately in this particular position, but later, one of the games that I saw later in the database will collide with this particular sideline, so it will meet also with this concept to play the move queen to e7. In my opinion, very interesting approach, because what Stockfish is preparing here with the move queen to e7 is in some lines even castle queenside. Stockfish is of course playing something like h6 g5, hitting this unpleasant bishop on g5, trying to kick it away, creating some spaces on the king side. But many times when you push the pawns in front of your own king, it's not so good. So when you play h6 g5, hitting the bishop, then it's not so good many times to castle into the weakened structure that you have created. So with this move queen to e7, Stockfish plays a beautiful new idea. Stockfish wants to later castle even queenside when the time comes. Stockfish will not castle immediately. Stockfish is waiting when the center maybe gets too open, when maybe there is a certain threat in the center of the board, then Stockfish will simply get out of the attack. So really interesting choice. For instance, in a game played by Arjun Ergaisi against Magnus Carlsen, Magnus played a whole different approach, played h6 after something like bishop to h4. Magnus played now bishop to d7. The game continued with rook to e1. Magnus retreated. Here Arjun Ergaisi played knight to d2, and now we have the same concept, but here after bishop to g3, Magnus tried to reroute the pieces here on the king side, tried of course to play knight to g6, knight to f4, and similar stuff. So it's playable, nothing wrong. As I said, no mistakes, inaccuracies, or blunders here. But I really liked here this approach with queen to e7. Here the Superultra engine retreated with the bishop. Now Stockfish continues with h6 g5 preparations anyway, so it's still the main concept, it's still the main idea. Here we have rook to e1 by Superultra, and now Stockfish plays bishop to a7. Very, very important move, because if you play something like bishop to d7, maybe let's repeat a little bit here the Magnus Carlsen line, then the issue is here the d4 move will happen. You have to step back, knight to a3, we can play some d5 line, so white will have his spaces here in the center of the board. I think, again, black will not have a pleasant game here for sure. So that's why here after bishop to h4, Stockfish continued, as I said, with h6 to g5. Here we have bishop to a7, and now after move d4 here by Superultra, now comes this aggressive method with the move g5. In many lines, knight to g5 is an opportunity, but that's only when maybe black has castled already. Then it's hard to get the rook from f8. If you would have castled already, then it's very hard to get the rook into the defense. But now it's a different story. Don't worry about this tactics, because a rook to g8 is going to solve all of the positional problems. In some lines, maybe we can sack the rook for the bishop, but just in order to get out of the pins. But so far, nothing spectacular gained here for white. So it's a different story. Now the king is in the center, but this tactics with knight to g5 is not working. So here after move g5, that's why Superultra played now the move bishop to g3. Now Stockfish plays a very interesting line, plays now the beautiful knight to h5. And usually I would not recommend you to play this kind of a move, because there is always this tactic with knight takes e5, and then the discovered attack against this knight on h5. Whenever you do that, you should consider this possibility, this tactical shot. But what's going to happen? For instance, if you play here knight from b to d2, then it's a little bit too slow, because after knight to g3, h takes g3, I think we can even continue here to push the pawns with h5, maybe g4, first of course h4 and similar stuff. So we will break and enter here in the center, pardon me, on the king side immediately. So black will have here attacking chances, although black's king is stuck in the center. So that's why from knight to h5, Superultra had to go into this aggressive method with the move knight to e5. Stockfish continues with knight to e5. The problem is now that you cannot play d takes e5. You have to take out now here the piece on e5 with the bishop, because if you play d takes e5, then black has this intermediate attack against the bishop. Knight takes g3, you can play e takes d6 also, sort of a Zwischenzug intermediate attack against the queen. But now with queen to f6, you're getting challenged here around the square f2. This is not working. Look at this. After queen to c2, maybe trying to defend the position, you're trying to retreat. Okay, it seems so that white has his fun with this aggressive move e5, but now we play queen to f4. Maybe white can also try to break and enter, but now look at this. We castle out of this attack. The problem is now d7 is not possible. The bishop on c4 is also hanging. If you play something else, I don't know, if you play knight to a3, then we'll simply pick up the pawn here. You can, of course, play e takes f7, but here after king to g7, black is solving all of the positional problems in the position. Nothing spectacular gained for white. Black is up a piece. It's game over, I think, for white for sure. So see, after knight to e5, you have to play now bishop to e5 because of the threat knight takes g3. Stockfish plays now d takes e5. Of course, Superultra takes out now here the piece on h5, and now comes one of the critical moments of the game. Really, really spectacular what's going on now on the board, because many of us, I think, would even immediately play the move e takes d4. But this move e takes d4 leads actually into a forced, brutal, I would say even forced drawish line, because look what happens. C takes d4, probably here by white. You play bishop to d4. You're attacking, of course, the weak b2 pawn. White continues with knight to c3. We play bishop takes f2. This is the way to go. After king to f2, we can, of course, hit also the bishop on c4. But now it gets a little bit tricky also here, here for black. It seems so that the king is endangered here on g3, but actually, okay, maybe black can deliver a couple of checks against the king on g3, but no support is there. A couple of checks should not bother you. So here after move knight to d5, probably queen to d3 is going to happen, but we can cover. Look at this, rook to e3, queen to d4, knight to c7. You have to step back. We protect the knight. You're trying to get the rook out of the game, and now we include this other rook into the game. Probably this game would lead into some perpetuals with queen to d6 and queen to d4. So that's exactly what Stockfish noticed after potential e takes d4. So it seems tempting. Probably 90% of any players would play this move, but it's simply not working. Stockfish wants to gain more out of this line. Stockfish wants to win this game now with the black pieces and chooses to play a very cool move, bishop to d7, which is an immediate preparation to castle queenside. Really, really wild stuff. So that's what I liked about this queen to e7 concept, which gives here black really a beautiful opportunity, a beautiful flexibility to castle here on queenside. Really, really wild stuff. So here, Superultra continued with move d5. Now, the problem is bishop to f2 and king to f2 is not working, I think, here for black, because after queen to c5 we can cover, you pick up the piece, but actually white is continuing now the game with this very, very unpleasant pawn on d5. Has, I think, also powerful knight that will eventually come into the game. White's king is endangered, but also black's king is, of course, not in optimal shape. So that's why I think this is also some line that you should try to avoid, because now there is a certain simplification. So that's why after move d5, Stockfish didn't want to go into this bishop takes f2 line, simply puts more pressure here against the pawn on f2 with the queen. So Stockfish continues the pressure. We have the bishop pair. We don't want to simplifications here. We don't want to go into maybe slightly favorable angle. No, Stockfish, as I said, wants to win now the game, has now the powerful bishop that's cross-running all over the board. So here, rook to f1 has to be played now by white. White is now on the passive side. Black is now a beautiful initiative. We have queen to f4, queen to e2. We have now the move h5, and now here g3 by the Superultra engine, trying, of course, to kick away the queen. We have queen to f6, Stockfish keeps the pieces on the board, king to g2, and now we have a very important move, g4. This pawn is supported here by the bishop, and this move g4 is not allowing here some defensive ideas by white, maybe to play the move h3. This h3 move, this h3 square is now covered by the bishop and the pawn, and the main goal, of course, by black is now simply to play the move h4 and opening up the h file. So we have knight to a3. Finally, Superultra gets the piece into the game, but it's a little bit too slow. Stockfish is already there. He plays now the beautiful h4. Now after rook to h1, Stockfish plays now finally queenside castle and simply connects the rooks. Really, really, really wild stuff. So what should white do? Here, bishop to d3, played by Superultra, trying to get the pieces back into the defense. We have now the move c6. Really brave but interesting choice by the fish, because Stockfish is trying now to open even the d file. So Stockfish is saying now, no room for close positions. I want to open the position. I want to let this position explode now in the center of the board, because now finally my king is secured. We have now the move c4 by Superultra, trying to have a grip on light squares here. We have rook to h6, beautiful move, which prepares now a beautiful rook battery on the h file. This is the way to go, because if we play h3, then suddenly the rooks could be disconnected, and when the rooks are disconnected, it's almost like black is playing the whole game, the whole rest of the game with up a whole rook. So that's also one of the positional ideas. h3, then you have to play king to f1, and then the rook on h1 is simply locked. Really, really wild stuff. So here, Superultra tried to move c5. Superultra tried also to maybe open some files against black's king. But even if you play, look at this, even if you play something like, I don't know, knight to c2, this wasn't played in the game, then the huge threat is, as I said, this rook battery. You can play, of course, d takes c6. We play b takes c6. It doesn't matter. Still, we have a great defensive structure in front of our king. You can maybe try knight to e3, but look at this, what happens. H takes g3. This is the way to go. If you play here something like h takes g3, then the problem is now this winning idea. Queen to f3 is winning the game on spot, because after queen to f3, g takes f3, you have to now step back from the defense of both of these rooks, and now one of these rooks will be taken. The game is over again here for white. Really, really wild stuff. Even if you play here f takes g3, then the issue is this one. Rook to h3. Now we create simply a fully massive battery here with both of these rooks and the queen on the h file. There's nothing that can be done. I think this is undefendable, so it's simply not working. So there's simply too much pressure. Rook to g3 and queen to h3 is in some lines a huge tactical threat. If you, for instance, play h takes g3, then again the rook on h1 is hanging. So too many dirty opportunities here for black. So that's why Superultra tried the move c5, tried simply somehow to get the rook back into the game. But now after bishop to c5, rook to c1, Stockfish simply retreats to a7. Superultra tries now to include the new attacker into the game, but Stockfish doesn't care. Simply plays a calm move, gets out of the attack. King to b8, we have rook to c2, c takes d5, e takes d5. We have now the move h3. As I said, now the king is out of game, the king is locked. Also, the rook is now paralyzed on the square, so this rook will not play till the end of the game. So really devastating position here for white, and Stockfish now plays the last move that's opening into position. Maybe you can also, just for fun, if you like, pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. So white, pardon me, for black, black moves and wins the game. What would you do now in this particular position? Okay, the winning idea is a beautiful e4, simply letting the position explode. As I said, that's now the only piece that we have to get rid of in order to open files, open diagonals, to include all of the attackers into the attack against white king. Look at this. After e4, what can you do? If you play queen to e4, then rook to h4, very dangerous. You can maybe try to trade off the pieces, but look at this. After queen to f4, g takes f4, rook takes d5 is going to happen. The bishop is hanging. You have to play something like bishop to e2, but now look at this. We keep the attacking flow. In some lines, for instance, you play b3, also rook to d1 is, for instance, winning the game with pick up now the piece, and now you have to step back from the defense of the rook. As I said, this was always the huge problem, the issue about the rook on h1. This is not working. So that's why here after e4, Superultra played bishop to e4. Stockfish continues with the pressure against the bishop now with rook to e8. We have queen to d3 and now bishop to b5. Look at this. This powerful bishop is now coming in a spectacular way into the game. Many pieces are lined up here on the long diagonal. What can you do? In the game, a4 was played, but of course Stockfish doesn't want to be deflected to this diagonal. Stockfish stays on this diagonal, and here after move king to e2. In this particular position, believe me or not, Superultra resigned. What's the issue? What can you do? For instance, one of the moves that you can play here is the move b3. Of course, protecting your knight. But look at this, what happens. We play simply queen to a1. That's also something that should be considered here. In the beginning, it seems so that the queen cannot be included in such a spectacular way, but actually, look at this. If you try to open this diagonal, the queen comes into the game and the game is over. Really wild stuff. What you could do maybe is the move f4, trying somehow to lock the files, but after g takes f3 en passant, again, what should you do? You play queen to f3, then we have even this one, rook takes e4. You cannot pick up here the piece. You can maybe trade off here the queens on f6, but now after a couple more moves you can get even checkmated. So here you can try, of course, bishop to f3 after moves f4 and e takes f3 en passant, but now rook to e3 disconnects now the queen from the defense of the bishop. Look at this. If you play here knight takes e3, then queen to f3 is winning the game. The queen is hanging here. What can you do? You can play, of course, rook to f2, but after queen to e3, the game is again over here for white. So brutal bishop pair in the end. Really beautiful, spectacular game in the Italian opening. I hope that you enjoyed this game, because I think many great strategies we have seen, surprise elements I think also here, because you can use many of these elements, I think, in your preparation in the Italian opening. Spectacular, really beautiful game played by Stockfish 16. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. If you want to see more beautiful, spectacular games like this, check out our commented chess games played by computer series with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Dragon Engine, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.